I want to speak about Joseph, a remarkable man. He was the second to last son of Jacob, and we all know his story of the coat of many colors and how he was over-favored by his father. And this caused immense problems for him as a child, and God had to deal with that pride and that attitude that arose from that wrong relationship. So I want to read something from the end of Genesis about how Joseph handled his brothers after his father's death. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "It may be that Joseph will hate us and pay us back for all the evil which we did to him." So they sent a message to Joseph saying, "Your father gave this command before he died. Say to Joseph, 'Forgive, I pray, the transgression of your brothers and their sin, because they did evil to you. And now we pray you, forgive the transgression of the servants of the Lord of your father.'" And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. His brothers also came and fell down before him and said, "Behold, we are your servants." But Joseph said to them, "Fear not, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, so to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So do not fear, I will provide for you and your little ones." Thus he reassured them and comforted them. We only have to think back to what happened to Joseph, because his brothers then had sold him into slavery because they were so jealous and hated him because of the favoritism that they saw he experienced with his father. And then Joseph had to go through those awful years of slavery, imprisonment, being forgotten, ignored, and humiliated in every way. And yet somehow in the midst of it all, he did not lose faith in God. He had trust in him that God would see him through. And then, of course, came the time when the famine came to Egypt, and Joseph was then able to interpret the dream of Pharaoh, and it ended up with him becoming, in effect, the prime minister of Egypt. And he had to oversee all the preparation for the years of famine that were to come. And this led also to his own family having to flee the famine in Canaan and come to Egypt. And how it was amazing how Joseph engineered that and managed to deceive his brothers, in a sense, to enable the whole family to be saved. But of course, his brothers constantly had in mind what had happened when they sold Joseph into slavery. And so they feared his retribution after their father's death. But then we see this remarkable event, how they actually concocted a story that Jacob had asked Joseph to forgive his brothers. And Joseph had a totally different attitude. And he said these remarkable words, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." And this is so often the case. If we handle the way people treat us in a right way, God is going to bless us. And all of us have suffered injury and hurt from others, often even from Christians or Christian leaders. I just think back in my own life, how I've suffered hugely because of the jealousy or hatred or even wrongdoing of other Christians. And yet I've had to learn to forgive. And in that forgiving, we find that God blesses us and even makes up for us what we would have otherwise thought we would lose. And he has led us into broad ministry even as a result. And so what we have to learn here is, do not let the sin or the wrong of others become our wrong, and this cause damage to us spiritually and hinder our ministry. It's wonderful to see in Joseph's life how the result of his walk with God and not allowing bitterness to enter his soul, how he was used of God to save two nations, both Egypt in the famine and also his own people, who ultimately were the source of the coming of Jesus. So we see Joseph, as a result of his forgiving, was a blessing to the world. May you and I forgive others as we have our own sins forgiven. May God bless you all.